Today we're talking about the lesser ritual of the pentagram, or specifically the banishing ritual. People say to me, "You're in the Golden Dawn. You must do an awful lot of banishing." After all, isn't that what the Golden Dawn does? Banish. Before you do absolutely anything, you banish. If you're opening a temple, you have to banish first. Otherwise something bad will happen. After you close a ritual, you've got to banish again in case something's left hanging around. Even if you're doing a meditation, you are supposed to begin and end with a banishing. But there was one problem with this. The original Golden Dawn was not that obsessive about banishing. And indeed, you can tell a modern Golden Dawn order by how obsessed it is about banishing. Here are the original Golden Dawn instructions for the lesser ritual of the pentagram. If we zoom in, we can see that the top of the page is referring to the invoking pentagram. So where is the banishing? Well, it's just a footnote right at the bottom. Don't believe me? Here it is. For banishing, use the same ritual, but reversing the direction of the lines of the pentagram. All this Golden Dawn banishing, and all you get is a footnote. Surely, if the banishing is that important, it should have pride of place over the invoking. But it doesn't. And in fact, all the evidence seems to suggest that the invoking was the important ritual. Firstly, let's get down to basics. The ritual was called the lesser ritual of the pentagram, and not the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram or the lesser invoking. So when you see these instructions, it means that you default to the invoking and not the banishing. Which explains why the banishing is simply a footnote. It is something that does not always need to be done, and when it is done, there are special circumstances. So what are those circumstances? If we turn over the page, we have a handy paper titled The Uses of the Pentagram Ritual. Now, it doesn't give many uses, and it certainly doesn't give any use for clearing rooms or anything else that's used for it now. In fact, the only use of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is as a protection against impure magnetism. The banishing ritual can be used to get rid of obsessing or disturbing thoughts. All you're supposed to do is give a mental image to your obsession and project it out and prevent it from returning with the sound of silence again. But this is not clearing a room, and it's certainly not scrubbing it ready for a ritual. This paper also suggests that as a form of prayer, the invoking ritual should be used in the morning and the banishing in the evening. Now, the use of the word prayer is very important here. You're not doing a banishing to protect you while you sleep, nor are you doing an invoking in the morning to wake you up. It's a communion with God. You're worshipping the active aspects in the morning and the passive aspects as you go to sleep. What you are doing is creating a magic circle to empower and protect your sphere of sensation. And because you're not trying to exorcise a room or anything like that, an invoking is ideal for the job. That's not to say you never banish. There are times when you do need to banish. And in the New Zealand Golden Dawn Order, Wharewa, they even used to banish their temple before they started. And the reason for this was that their temple was used quite often by high adepts who didn't clean up properly after themselves, and the last thing they wanted was to conduct an initiation with stray astral thought formers buzzing around. But this was a belts and braces approach. If you have your own temple in your house and you are doing rituals in there regularly, you do not need to start each time doing a banishing, because you know what energy's there, you know what to expect, and you should have closed down properly afterwards. But this is also ignoring the fact that an invoking pentagram is an extremely powerful force. What an invoking does, as opposed to banishing, is it spiritualizes a particular area and creates sacred space. This sacred space is impossible for a lower astral entity to cross. It's working at a higher spiritual vibration and can't enter. It's not the be-all and end-all. It won't stop Lucifer manifesting in your living room, but it will stop most of the astral dross that drifts in and out of a room. So therefore a banishing isn't needed for it, just the invoking. If something nasty comes your way, you're fully entitled to banish it. If something starts to go wrong in a ritual and you need to shut it down in a hurry, a banishing is a way forward. But again, these are very rare circumstances. Also, you could, if you're an advanced magician, use a banishing as a precursor to a ritual where you want something to go away. It's not often done, but there are certain types of rituals which are based on exorcism, which you would be better off starting with a banishing instead of an invoking. So based on what's written down, we can form reasonably accurate rules about when you banish and when you invoke. 99% of the time, you will invoke. This is all the protection you need. However, if you're in unfamiliar space, the space feels psychically unpleasant, you banish first. So meditation, you would always invoke. Spending the night at a dodgy hotel room, you'd banish first. Open a temple, you invoke. Demon coming up your stairs, banish as fast as possible. Justin Bieber, banish and then kill it with fire. So if the Golden Dawn didn't invent the obsession with the banishing pentagram, where did it come from? And the answer to that, like most things within the modern Golden Dawn, is to blame Israel Regardie. There is not a single Golden Dawn order that does not owe something to Israel Regardie. Here he is in his Harry Potter days. But what we sometimes forget is that much of the material that has come to us has been interpreted by Regardie. And so we need to understand that some of it may not be as intended by the original Golden Dawn founders. Regardie was heavily influenced by psychology, in particular the teachings of Wilhelm Reich and his belief and the teachings related to sex and its complexes. In the lesser ritual of the pentagram, Regardie felt that he had found a way of removing bad complexes from a person's psyche. But the downside of this is it implies that magic is psychological. Now, Regardie didn't believe this, or doesn't seem to have given any indication that he believed this, but he was heavily influenced by it. So, to a psychologist, the last thing you want to do is invoke and bring new things into a space. What you want to do is get rid of all complexes, and then everybody will be happy and balanced. This is fine for the outer order in many respects, but in the long term it causes a problem. If you continually banish, what are you going to have left inside you? It's my belief that the invoking and banishing rituals of the pentagram represent two sides of the naught equals naught ritual. The banishing represents the purification, the burning off of the dross and the negative aspects of a person, which is shown in the knowledge papers, while the invoking is the important bit. It's the bit where you are linked to your higher self and you connect to your higher self. So it's logical that you're going to want to do the invoking more once most of the banishing side has been done. But it also answers the question why Golden Dawn people get into so much trouble with banishing. Banishing does actually leave you feeling empty and without much purpose, if that's all you do. You have to invoke, and invoke often, to bring in those new things into your life. If you ignore those, then you are causing yourself psychological problems as well, which is something Regardie didn't actually see. But Regardie's book, The Golden Dawn, where the ritual of the pentagram was contained, was a big influence on Gerald Gardner, the founder of modern Wicca, who incorporated the pentagrams within Gardnerian witchcraft. This in turn influenced Alex Saunders, who incorporated into Alexandrian Wicca. So for many, many years, following the Second World War, the concept of using a banishing pentagram before any ritual or anything else became fully ingrained in the psyche. Yet it wasn't there within the original Golden Dawn. Anybody who wants to blame Golden Dawn for banishing all the time really has to look at their own more modern movements which influenced the modern Golden Dawn. If we look at those movements, like witchcraft and everything else, we come to the conclusion that it isn't really the Golden Dawn's fault if people didn't really understand what was written down in the original knowledge papers.